And we are back with another episode of these short little or long little videos, however you want to look at it. Maybe 10 minutes is long for you, maybe 10 minutes is short for you. And I've got a lot on my mind. I've got a lot on my mind all the time, but I really have a lot on my mind today for this episode because over the past week, so if you don't know or if you haven't seen, I host a meetup group. It's called Health, Wealth, Love, and Happiness. And basically, what that meetup group is for is to bring like minded people together to discuss topics that aren't often talked about in today's society, especially love. I feel like that is something that when you ask people here's a question that I brought up in our meeting the other day or last week. And it's like, what is love? Is it a feeling? Is it something that we can see? Is it a series of words that describes it? I mean, there's just so many different things that you can or people interpret when it comes to the word love. And this is one thing that I've observed over the years is we'll think back to a health class or maybe even just health in general. And there are a lot of people that go to the gym. There are a lot of people that live a healthy lifestyle. There are a lot of people that do a fairly good job taking care of themselves. But when it comes to love, a lot of people struggle loving themselves within. And maybe I saw a quote, maybe I was talking to somebody else about this, but it doesn't matter if you go to the gym 4 days a week. It doesn't matter if you go to the gym 7 days a week. If you do not love yourself within, you're still a very unhealthy individual. And I don't mean that I don't mean any disrespect by that, but that's just the way it is. If you don't love yourself, you're still a miserable person regardless of how much you put out into the world, because I think happiness, the root or the where happiness starts or where it begins is within. And a lot of people look outward, which segues into today's message or today's topic or today's idea. And I think it may have been a couple posts ago, I posted a book and it's called Love is Not the Answer. And I got a few people that messaged me regarding that book. And some people said they're very intrigued by the book. Some people disagreed with the title. Well, that's the thing. You can't judge a book by its cover. You have no idea what it means. So if you say you disagree with the book title and you haven't read the book, how do you make an accurate assumption about the book? It's the same thing. You see people make assumptions about another person, or they try to say, well, this person is, or that person's about that, and you've never really truly tried to understand that person. And I think that's another thing. We're getting off into a little side tangent, which I do often. That gets into another thing of people just don't genuinely, and I won't put everybody, and I say that a lot, I don't want to put everybody in the same box or the same circle, but a lot of people don't take the time to truly understand what a person's about, where they come from, and the way they think. And so the easy way to kind of cop out or back out is to make an assumption about somebody. You know, you may know somebody for 2 weeks. You may know somebody for a month. And a lot of times, if that person does one bad thing that you don't like, you automatically jump to, or we automatically jump to the assumption of that person's a bad person. And it's not always true. It's just the same thing. You go to the store and buy avocados. You come home, that's if you eat avocados. If you don't eat avocados, you should really try because it might change your life. But anyway, so you go to the store, you buy avocados, and we'll just say you bought 10. You get home, and you get on the eighth one, and it's rotten. Or maybe you get to the first one and it's rotten. You say, man, I'm never going back to that store to buy the avocado. Maybe in 100 avocados on that come from a tree, maybe that avocado had a bad day and it produced a bad avocado. That doesn't mean that tree is a bad tree because it produced one bad avocado. It's just like human beings. Sometimes we may have a bad day. Maybe sometimes we may say things that are a little bit harsh. Maybe sometimes we do things that aren't necessarily who we are. That's just human nature. But anyway, I get off in these side tangents. If you've ever spent time around me and you've talked to me for an extended amount of time, woo, it's like I'm everywhere. But that's how my mind rolls. But anyway, back on the topic of this book. Love is not the answer. So I was talking to a few people, and one person asked me, because I do tend to, or I have in the past talked about relationships. And the person asked me, why have you dove into learning more about relationships? And it's something that comes with growth. It's something that comes from self-reflection, but it also comes from just observing. And we hear it all the time. The divorce rate in America, you hear men talk about it, there aren't any good women. You hear women talking about it, there aren't any good men. And the more and more I hear this, I kind of observe and I listen and I try to figure out, why are people saying these things? Well, one of the main things I believe that people say these things is because we have become somewhat of a culture that we're broke and we date or marry other broke people or broken people. So what do I mean by that? Say if you're dating and we've all gone through it. We've all gone through heartbreak, some worse than others. And if you've ever been down that road or down that path, you'll understand that it's not fun. But we all go through it. Some heal from it. Some people look outside and try to find something to fill that void. Men often fall into drugs, sex, and getting into things that aren't necessarily them. Women, the same thing. But one thing that I've noticed is women tend to talk about it a little bit more than men. So and I think that is somewhat from a societal, quote unquote, standard of men should never share their feelings and men should never talk about their feelings. And so what happens is men go through this heartbreak or these relationships that tears them down. And what are men taught to do? From a very young age, don't cry. Suck it up. Rub some dirt on it. So we've already been conditioned from a young age not to talk about our feelings. So what happens? We grow up, we get into these relationships, somebody breaks us, and what do? We don't talk about it. So what happens? I won't say specifically a percentage because I don't know. I'm sure somebody out there does know. But it's very difficult to gauge the percentage of men that don't talk about it or the percentage of men that don't heal from those things. And so what do? They look outward and they start dating people that fill these voids of something that they're missing or somebody that they missed. And so they start dating things that aren't necessarily, or people that aren't necessarily up to their standard. And so that's one of the reasons why I started diving into these relationships, of trying to understand why there's so many broke people dating and marrying other broke people. Women, you're not off the hook either, because women do the same thing. They go through these relationships. They go through heartbreak. And then they start looking outward. And they start dating people that aren't up to their standards. And they start doing things that aren't necessarily, quote unquote, them or who they are or what they are about. So we have a culture, in a way, of people dating people that haven't healed. Now I'll say one thing, and I will put the majority of people in this. The majority of people don't want to spend the time to heal themselves to better prepare for the next person that's coming around or the next person that they're going to marry. So why do I think the divorce rate in America is so high? Is because people don't heal. What happens is they go through, like I mentioned, they go through that heartbreak, and then they try to find people to mask some of those wounds, and before you know it, they're in another toxic relationship. I'm sure you may know a friend or two. You may see a relative, or you may see people you work with, or you may see people and you may see it every single day. And you're just like, why is that person still with that person? Why are people still in abusive relationships? Why are people still going after individuals? Why are people marrying individuals that just don't meet their standards? It's because a lot of people are broke. And the thing about healing within, it's an amazing thing when you do this too. You start figuring out, you just you step back and reflect, and you're just like, wow. But we cannot truly love another person the way we want to love another person until we heal within. I don't care if there's another thing I'll put a lot of people in this. You just cannot love somebody until you fix what's within. Because what happens is you love somebody for the skewed perception of what you think love is because of a past relationship. And it just becomes a sticky situation of being unhappy, relationship after relationship after relationship, marriage after marriage after marriage. A lot of people like what's in the moment. They're like, oh my goodness, this person knows how to cook popcorn. This person cleans off the toilet seat after he pees, or this person, the list goes on. But you're only, quote unquote, loving that person, or you're falling in love with that person because you're in the moment. You're in a dark place. Like I said, I won't put all, because there's always some person that says, well, I don't do that, so why are you saying you are? Sometimes I just want to hit somebody with a banana, leaving ignorant comments. Anyway, nobody's left any ignorant comments, but I hear things. So the other thing that this person and I talked about when they messaged me about the book that I pulled up or posted, is called Love Is Not the Answer, is a lot of people have these unrealistic expectations when they go into relationships or when they get married. So what do I mean? So when you start dating somebody, there's going to be expectations with that. And then you start dating them even longer, there's new expectations. And then say you get engaged, there's expectations for that. And then when you marry, there are new expectations for that. And a lot of times, so there's different phases of expectations that you want or you expect from a partner, which is fine, as long as you communicate those things. But a lot of times people get into relationships and marriages and they have expectations that they don't communicate. So what happens? Well, you have a lady who's mad at her partner because he texts her too much. That wouldn't even be an issue if you communicated. Those aren't the expectations that you have and you don't like it. Simple. Boom. It's done. But how many people dust things under the rug and say, well, I don't like that guy because he texts me way too much? Speak up. And then on the other hand, men, you have these unrealistic expectations and you get in a relationship and say, well, I don't really like, well, I don't even know what I can use. I don't like her cooking, but I still eat it. Well, well, maybe not telling her cooking's bad. Maybe you take the initiative and say, hey, let me cook the meals. Simple. Instead of just brushing it on the rug and sucking it up. Now, there are some things that, yes, us as men do have to suck up, and that's just part of relationships. But when you're letting things so significant just be brushed under the rug, that's another reason why we see so many relationships and marriages disintegrate. Because people don't communicate. People text. A text message all day long. Text from another room. Text out of the person when they're at work. But when they come home, some people don't ever want to have a face-to-face conversation and really talk about the issues that need to be talked about. So we'll get back onto expectations. We have these, and I blame some of these love stories and some of these love movies for creating this happily ever after or image that this is what relationships are about. This is what marriages are about. I can't tell you how many relationships and marriages that I see, and I hear people, well, I thought it was going to be like this. No. Just because you saw it in a movie, sure does not mean that it's going to happen in real life. So you see people get married and everything's good, have kids, and then everything goes down the shitter because they didn't plan for, okay, what's life going to be with kids? What are the expectations? You got to communicate those things, because if you don't communicate those things, it's going to be very difficult. If you don't have an understanding that life does change when you have kids, it may be very, very tough. So you see people have kids and then they still try to live like they're 20 years old, going out partying every single weekend. If you do that and it works, good for you. If you do that and it doesn't work and you continue doing it, why? To me, you have responsibilities and then you have fun. If your fun is more important to you than your responsibilities, then there's probably a problem. And sometimes you do see that. You see kids having to raise themselves because their parents are doing or going out and having fun. Now, I don't have kids, I'm not married, but I think I've read enough, I think I've observed enough, and I observe all the time, probably too much. And I see things. I know how I've been able over the years just to see things, how people act in this, that, and the other. So communicating is huge. But having these unrealistic expectations on relationships and marriages, I think that's where we go sour. Or that's where we go south. Because we have in our mind, well, my marriage should be like, I don't know, name your famous actor or your two famous couples that have a glamorous relationship. They post it on, of course, Facebook and Instagram. It's like on the outside, on social media world, everybody looks happy. Nobody's posting their dog days or their dark days of maybe their relationships or their marriages or maybe their personal lives. I don't do it. I'll talk about it, but I don't. I mean, what you see on my Instagram, you guys may think, wow, he really hasn't made. I have dog days. I have things that happen in life that gets me down and kind of gets me in the dumps. But I don't try to make my life appear like it's glamorous or I have these big expensive cars and houses and this and that. What I use my social media platform is to help other people. I use my social media platform to share some of the things that I like, that I'm involved in. And I definitely share my social media platform to speak about some of these topics that a lot of people, one, may be ashamed of talking about, two, may be shy to talk about, and three, don't have the courage to talk about. I want to be that voice to help others out there, because relationships are the most, or one of the most essential parts of life and happiness. And if we don't take the time to heal within, if we don't take the time to learn about who we really are as a person, it becomes very, very difficult to share ourselves to another human being. And I see it all the time. I see people in relationships and marriages that are extremely unhappy. I see people in marriages that have the cars, the houses, the money, and are very unhappy. What are you unhappy for? You have money, cars, the houses. Because you never healed within. And that's a challenge that I've made to myself. Learn more about myself, heal myself, so I can share myself with others. And that's something I hope anybody that's watching this video, I hope you take the time to do so. Take the time to learn about yourself. Sometimes that does mean not getting into a relationship. Sometimes that means being alone with yourself 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, to learn what it is, or learn who you are, learn what it is you like. Find hobbies that you're interested in. I tell you what, when you find hobbies that you're interested in, you can find like-minded people. Your vibrations, your positive energy go way up here. Trust me. So I just hit the surface with this one. I had my meetup group last week, and we kind of talked about some of these things. We even got into gender roles and what society deems as, what a man's role should be, what a woman's role should be in a marriage and a relationship. We talked about feminists. We talked about a lot. Some things I agreed with, some things I disagreed with, but we were able to have the conversation. And that's what I encourage people to do, is have the conversation with your significant other, have the conversation with a loved one, have the conversation with your husband or your wife. Because if you are in a relationship that is stuck, if you are in a relationship that is going nowhere and you're not communicating about it, your partner probably doesn't know what you mean. You can't assume that the other person is a mind reader, and vice versa. Got a lot of this, oh, you should know what I'm thinking. Nobody's a mind reader. Now, women are very, very intuitive. They're very, very intelligent. But women, you cannot expect men to pick up on a lot of things, because us men, we are not designed like that. These little subtle hints, a lot of men, we just don't pick up on it. That's just how it is. Men, you're not off the hook. Stop assuming what you know a woman is talking about. Instead of just hearing what she says, hear it to understand what she's saying. So I'll use an example. If she tells you to take the trash out at 6 p.m., and this is 6 p.m., 6 p.m., don't wait until 6 a.m. the next morning and then wonder why she's mad at you. She's not mad at you because you didn't take the trash out. She's mad at you because she wanted you to do it in a timely fashion. Think about it that way. If your wife or your girlfriend asks you to do the dishes at 3 p.m. and you wait until 11 p.m. and she's mad and you don't understand why, she's not mad that you didn't do the dishes. She's mad because, again, you didn't do it in a timely fashion. So us men need to be better at understanding what women are saying. Don't just hear it. Listen with the intent to understand what she's saying. Because a lot of times, women, you're terrible communicators a lot of times. Men are terrible too. But women, you just can't expect us men to understand things. That's just how it is. And women women that are in marriages will understand where I'm coming from. Men in marriages will understand where I'm coming from. So I'll leave it there. If any of you want to dive deeper on this topic with me, feel free to message me on, if you're on Instagram, KOATSC is my handle. Shoot me a message. Drop me a comment below. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Let me know if there is a piece of this that really struck a nerve with you. This is one of my longer videos, and I did it intentionally because there are a lot of things about this specific topic that we don't often talk about, and we need to. This is a topic that needs to be discussed if you want to have a healthy relationship. We've got to heal. Got a lot of broke people dating broke people. We've got a lot of broke people marrying broke people and trying to make that work. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. And we say, well, I thought he was this person when, or, oh, I thought she was this one. Fix yourself within, and you'll be able to give yourself to another person. So again, if there's a piece of this video or message that connected with you, leave me a comment, shoot me a DM. I want to hear from people because that helps me help you. Like I said, by no means when I put these videos out am I trying to feel or speak as if I'm superior to anybody else, because I have my own flaws. I'm still learning a lot of this stuff on my own. But I want to at least speak these thoughts out onto a platform that it may connect with somebody and help somebody. That's where my energy is now. I want to be able to help other people because I see a lot of broke people, and I don't mean financially, I mean within, that continue dating the same people, that continue marrying the same people. Those people aren't bringing them happiness. When you're able to understand that, life changes, and your vision of the world becomes different too. So I hope this message helped somebody. I hope somebody actually listened. It's almost 30 minutes. Didn't mean to go off on a 30-minute tangent, but that's just the way it is sometimes. These messages are, I'm passionate about these messages, but I'm even more passionate about helping those out there that need help. And if this was able to connect with you, I'm glad. So again, if you have anything to say about this, direct message me or follow me on Instagram at KOATSC. Leave me a message. Let me know what you think. Until next time, have a good one.